The choice of a career is one of the most defining decisions that a person can make in his or her lifetime. We spend most of our time here on earth working, and so it is not difficult to understand the impact that one's career has on their happiness and their quality of life overall. What then prompts a person to go into a career path that they are not passionate about, one that they do not love, let alone one that is as intensive, soul-crushing, delicate, time-consuming as medicine? Was there a point to prove? And what does the journey through medical school look like for a person like this? And most importantly, what happens next? In July of 2018, I had just freshly graduated from secondary school, and I was what many would consider a high-flying student with the kind of outstanding results that I had. A JAMB score of 329 out of 400, 5 A stars and 1 A in Cambridge O-level GCE exams, and 7 A1s out of 9 courses in WAEC. I mean, with those results, I could literally apply to any university in Nigeria to study any course that I wanted. But there was just one teeny tiny problem, and that was I didn't know what I wanted to study. I tried with the limited resources and knowledge that I had at the time to do some research to kind of see what possible career options I could see myself in the nearest future. And none of them quite stuck with me. I spent a lot of time being unsure and uncertain of what I wanted to do with my life. And as you can imagine, this was very frustrating, not just for me, but for my mom as well, who was my primary sponsor for my tertiary education. Months went by and there was a lot of back and forth because of my uncertainty and indecisiveness. I had resorted to even taking a gap year. Fast forward to August, about a month later, I received an email from Nile University offering me a provisional scholarship to Nile to study any course that I wanted, 100% tuition free. This changed the game because this mounted some sort of new pressure on me to actually decide what I wanted to study. I had offered engineering courses in secondary school. I did further math. I did technical drawing. My first options of what to study was an engineering course or architecture. But after graduating, I just really didn't see myself in any of those. I didn't see myself working as an engineer. It just felt too masculine for me to do. And I didn't see myself working in medicine either, because before I decided to become an engineer, back in junior secondary, everybody wanted to be a doctor, and I was one of those people just saying I wanted to be a doctor just for the sake of it. Let me preface this also by saying my mom is a doctor and my dad is an engineer. So firsthand, those are the two professions that I had been exposed to right from birth. So it is not a surprise that my point of contention was between studying medicine and studying engineering. I thought, okay, what if I take medicine and I take engineering and I mix it together? What does that give me? Biomedical engineering. So tada! I wanted to study biomedical engineering. But the caveat is that biomedical engineering wasn't being offered in our university. So this took me back to square one. At this point, I had to pick from the limited course options available. Deep down, I know that my mom has always wanted me to study medicine. But over time, she decided that it was best to let me choose the course of study. But she wasn't too good at hiding her true desire for me to study medicine. On one fateful day, I overheard a conversation between her and her best friend. She was on the phone with her best friend and they were talking about me. Her best friend had asked, oh, why doesn't Daniela want to study medicine? And my mom was like, I don't know. And she has everything it takes. She has everything it takes to study medicine. It was at that very unfortunate point that I made the very unfortunate decision to study medicine. If I had known that a decision that I made on the whim would have such an impact on my life, I would have definitely been more intentional about making that decision. So we wrote back to the school and I accepted the admission offer to study medicine. We started the application process and a month later we flew down to Abuja and it's been history. My first 2 years in medical school, I was in what I like to call a bubble of ignorance. As they popularly say, what you don't know cannot kill you. In those first 2 years, I hadn't fully met and understood the consequences of the choice that I had to study medicine. I was more so focused on the excitement of a new phase of life, traveling to an entirely different state, experiencing an entirely different culture than all I had known before then. Meeting new people, new experiences. I was not so fascinated by these things, and I was just taking my time to appreciate, observe, and understand my environment. The coursework was also fairly easy and fairly similar to what I had done in my previous year in secondary school. So it was honestly a breeze. It was a walkover. I was scoring hundreds on my tests. I kid you not, like 100, no mark missing. So it's safe to say that I was ignorantly optimistic. Sometime in 200 level, COVID struck, and what followed COVID was the lockdown. We were sent home for what we thought would be a 2-week break that eventually turned out to be a break from school for several months. During this time, we had sparse online classes here and there, so I spent majority of the time away from school, not doing any schoolwork. I somehow discovered freelancing, so I started doing that and I started making money from it. I started making good money. I made like my first 100k. I wasn't even up to 18. I made way more than that. I was enjoying what I was doing. I was working as a virtual assistant and I was assisting across a very wide range of administrative tasks, but that enjoyment was very short-lived. COVID started to die down eventually after those months had passed, and we attempted to start returning to life as we knew it before COVID. So what that meant was businesses started opening up, people started going back to work, and of course school started reopening. Of course I had to return back to school, so I was forced to close down this freelancing business. I was forced to shut everything down and return back to school. At this point, post-COVID, I was going back for 300 level. Post-COVID was a very, very dark era. Okay, that was very dramatic. Post-COVID, I would say, was the beginning of my academic downfall. We had a lot of intense classes back to back. We had a lot of series of exams because the program was now compressed. And this is what tipped me into an abyss, if you will. I was struggling very bad. And I would like to think that I had some sort of exposure bias, because during the period of the lockdown was when I had the realization that honestly, studying medicine and being medical school is really not what I want to do. During lockdown, it became very clear. And so because I knew for a fact, I knew with so much certainty that this is not what I wanted to be doing, it made it even more difficult to follow through. But somehow I did follow through. I ended up passing the exams, promotional exams, with 2 distinctions even. You can imagine the irony of my life. Now 300 level was dark. I had difficulty studying. I had difficulty concentrating. I also became really depressed at the time. I was really sad. I even cut all my hair off. There was so much that I was going through. My grades started declining, but somehow I was able to pull through 300 level as well because of my CA that I had built in 100 and 200 level. 400 level was when I discovered that rock bottom indeed has a basement. When I thought I couldn't go lower, I went even lower. 400 level was what I like to call the Great Depression. During that year, me and academics, we were parallel. We were going in opposite directions. The coursework got even more intense because at this point we had started our pre-clinicals. But the irony of it all is that in this same 400 level, content creation started to take off for me as well. So I was also very focused on creating content. I was also making money from creating content. I discovered a passion and I was feeding into that passion. I was nurturing that passion during that time. And in 400 level, I also discovered the power of community. I always say that I would never have made it through 400 level without the support of my friends, my senior colleague Kilima and my best friend Mukayo, who really helped me make it through. I narrowly passed that exam and I actually did vlog the whole process of that exam. It's on my channel. 400 level was also the year where I first actually considered dropping out of medical school. Not that I lightly considered it, I seriously was considering dropping out of medical school. But then again, there's this sunk cost fallacy where the amount of, let's say, time and efforts that has been invested into pursuing something doesn't allow you to step away from it, even though it is no longer what you want to be doing, just because of all that you have invested in pursuing that thing so far. I felt as though I had spent 4 years in medical school, which is equal to getting a degree. So I told myself, you have just 2 more years, you can just push through and everything is over. You never have to do this for the rest of your life again. Fast forward to 500 level. 500 level was the year of acceptance. I have to accept that whatever I am not changing, I am choosing. And so to me, it made no sense to continue to complain about not liking medical school and using that as an excuse to fail at it or not to put in effort into it, because at the end of the day, I was the one choosing to remain in medical school. I could drop out, like that was an option. But since I decided not to drop out, since I decided not to change anything, I was in the same vein choosing to remain in medical school. And so I had to accept that at the end of the day, this is the choice I am making, and my actions have to support that choice. And so I made up my mind to do my due diligence and put in the effort and do what I needed to do to keep moving forward. I also started working on myself as a person. The 500 level was a year where I began a lot of self-growth and investments in myself as a person, working on my discipline, my focus, my commitment, my happiness, working on my mind. I was optimistic, but I was aware. Now, the full consequences of my decision to study medicine, I had encountered, and I had these realizations and these epiphanies. And so it was a year of trying to make the best out of the already terrible situation. I started 600 level, which is the year that I am in currently. I cannot talk about 600 level in its totality because it is the present, it is still happening. But so far, I can say that 600 level has been a year of realizing hidden costs. I thought that in final year, I would be overjoyed because I have a few months left in medical school. But then the realization of hidden costs, and by hidden costs, I will clarify that the hidden costs I mean are, I have discovered that it doesn't just end with graduating from medical school, because when I graduate, by the grace of God, I receive a provisional license. A provisional license is not a full license to practice medicine in Nigeria. So in order to obtain a full license, I have to do a 1-year internship in a hospital, working as a junior doctor and being supervised by senior doctors, which is called housemanship. And after housemanship comes youth service. And I've also discovered that having studied medicine in Nigeria, I cannot do my youth service as any other occupation. I cannot do any administrative work. I can't teach. I must do my youth service as a doctor. So those are the hidden costs, and those have brought me a lot of sadness, because all of a sudden, it seems like this journey I thought would be ending now has been further extended by 2 more years. There's also a lot of anxiety about the future, because now that I am aware that this is not what I want to be doing, the biggest question and the elephant in the room is, so what next? There's also the fear of disappointment and disappointing my parents, specifically my mom, who has fully sponsored my training through medical school right from the beginning up until this point. And I didn't go to a cheap medical school. There are a lot of investments that have been made. So there's the grief and the sadness of, have I just wasted all this money and all this time for nothing? I don't know. If you find this story valuable so far, please consider subscribing to my channel to support me, because there's plenty more content like this that you will see from me. Thank you. As you can imagine, my journey through medical school, as somebody who absolutely dislikes every second in this place, has impacted me in so many ways. And ironically, there have also been some positives to being here. But I will start with the negatives. Throughout my time in medical school, I have faced severe burnout, and you can imagine how this burnout leaves behind little to no energy to even pursue or discover other passions that I may have outside of medicine. I have also struggled really badly with my mental health, especially in 300 level and 400 level. Then I used to say I was depressed lightly. But after my psychiatry posting, I know the definition of depression: persistent sadness nearly every day for most days for at least 2 weeks. I have been depressed as a result of lack of fulfillment and being very unhappy with what I was doing. At the start of my clinicals, I got introduced into the very toxic working environment that is healthcare. During clinical rotations, I got to experience the attitude of consultants and just doctors in general. I got to see how, especially those at the bottom of the food chain, which are the junior doctors and the house officers, are overworked to the core, doing 36-hour work days, 36-hour shifts, working back to back. There's always news of one doctor dying, especially house officers. There's always news of house officers dying on the job, slumping as a result of intense stress. I got to see firsthand what practicing this profession really looks like, and it brought me so much grief because it looks nothing like the life that I have envisioned for myself. I've also gotten to see the dwindling and declining healthcare system that we have in Nigeria, poverty of resources and underfunding of the healthcare sector that leads to doctors being overworked, overwhelmed, stressed out, and with limited resources to actually offer care to patients. I have to ask myself over and over again, is this what I want to do? After all these years of suffering and stress and pain, is this the kind of working system that I am coming to face? I would say the saddest negative of my experience so far would definitely be the resentment that I have towards healthcare workers, and the healthcare system in general. I have become very resentful towards healthcare in general, towards medicine as a course. Having to do this with so much resistance has blinded me to all the positives of healthcare. When I think of healthcare, it's difficult to remember that healthcare is something that we should be grateful for at the end of the day, because this is something that preserves our lives, it's something that prolongs our lives, it's something that helps us to fall ill and recover, it's something that helps us to extend our lives, it's something that improves the quality of our lives. But it's as if in my mind I have shut away all these benefits of healthcare, and when I think of healthcare, all I can think of are these negatives. On the other hand, I have also gained quite a few things undergoing this training in this profession. One of them will be the kind of people that I have come in contact with as a result of my training here. The relationships, the bonds, the connections that I have made over the past 6 years during the course of my training in this program are ones that I actually cherish. I have met the most beautiful, the most supportive, the most intelligent, the kindest people during my work this past 6 years. I have also had quite some time, as you can imagine, I've also had quite some time to be immune to adulting at its core. Because of the duration of the program, which is 6 years, I have spent longer time in school, and I know that there's a tendency to think about the downside of that, but on the positive side of that, I'm receiving pocket money. Just kidding. Not really though. But the positive of that is that I've had longer time to actually work on myself, to mentally prepare myself for life after uni and true adulthood. Lastly, I have learned a lot, believe it or not, about the human body. I've learned a lot about disease pathologies. I've learned a lot about how our lifestyle impacts our health at the end of the day, and I am better informed and equipped to make better life choices that would overall promote my health and allow me to have a higher quality of life in the long run. This is not a story about medicine. This is a story about life. This is my life. This is a core experience of my life, and one that is very personal, very sacred, and very vital to me. One that has not been the easiest to share. But by virtue of me sharing the story, there are 5 key things that I want every single person watching this to take away from this video. I want every single person watching this to know and understand the power of choice. Every single choice that we make has a consequence. Every single choice that we make is important. When next you're faced with a decision to make, whether it's a big decision or a small decision, weigh carefully the consequences, whether good or bad, of every single choice that you have to make before you choose. If you don't know for yourself who you are and what your purpose is on earth, life is going to choose for you, and it may be one that you end up not liking. So it is very, very important to know. Most of us in our 20s, this is one of our biggest struggles. I, for one, I'm constantly thinking, who am I and what am I here for? What is my purpose? What do I do? It's okay not to know for a while, but at some point it's not okay. Dedicate every single day to learning about who you are, what your purpose is, and what you can do. Fear is a trap. Don't allow the fear of the unknown and the fear of uncertainty keep you stuck doing something that you have no joy doing. I think the mistake that we make is that we always think we are going to be here forever until we are not. We have really limited finite time. So it's very important that we actually spend our lives doing work that matters to us, work that is aligned with our purpose and our destiny, and work that is impactful to our environment. There's no point allowing fear to keep us tied down to doing something that we absolutely do not want to do. Piggybacking off that, it's okay to pivot, it's okay to try things, and if they don't work out, it's okay to move on to another thing. It's not an ultimatum. This is something that I wish 16-year-old Daniela knew. I wish she knew that she didn't have to get it right on the first try. It was okay to come and experience things and see that this is really not what I want and leave. My final takeaway is that there is a very wide gap to fill when it comes to career guidance, especially for secondary school children. Based on my own personal experience, the knowledge of what career options were available to me were very, very limited. And I know that it is worse here in Africa than in other developed parts of the world. But here in Africa especially, we need to widen our horizon. We need a reform of school systems. We need to do better because we are not doing good at all. We need to expand our options beyond the holy trinity of medicine, law, and engineering. And parents as well need to be more supportive of their children's individual dreams. I think one thing that African parents in general need to stop doing is trying to live their own dreams through their children. Please, let's collectively as a society begin to move away from that. So what next? What am I going to do with this degree? What am I going to do after I graduate? Am I going to practice? If not, what will I be doing? Is there a way I can turn the lemons of the past 6 years into lemonade? The only way to find out is to actually stick around for my journey. Subscribe to my channel and watch me attempt to figure out this puzzle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.